Hello everyone, my name is Dewry Bradford, Dewry Dubois as you may know me as, and I am sitting here in the heart of Manhattan, Times Square, New York City, in the middle of Phil Harris's studio. Now, I'm very excited today because I now have the opportunity to really address something that sits at the heart of my existence, really. And I know this is a very important topic for Americans as well. It's actually a pandemic that is here in America. And that pandemic is called the mental health issue in America. So a little history of mine. I started in fashion in '99 as an intern, and I worked my way up through the corporate ladder because, believe it or not, in the design industry, it's still very corporate. And I worked myself into a position of associate designer, then head designer, then creative director. And I pretty much felt like I hit a glass ceiling. And I got to a point where I felt like I needed to do something a little bit more meaningful in my life. I've always been a missionary, a part of the church world. So I always had a heart for people. And I've always had a heart for the community. And in terms of my career, I got to a point where I wanted to do something more impactful for the community. And I, was just going to different events, attending fashion shows and other types of events as well. And I used to always run into this man. Every time he showed up, the light showed up. It was amazing. He could be early, could be late, didn't matter, because when that man walked in the room, the brilliance of his energy was just amazing to witness. And we would just always say hi to each other. And then 2019 hit. I actually had a moment to actually have a conversation with him. And that's when I found out his deeper truth, his deeper story. And this was my segue into understanding and learning about mental health. And what I've noticed is that there's kind of like a juxtapose, right? I call it the disease of contradiction, because you see someone in the brightness, fullness of their career, super successful, and what you don't know is the deeper truth of them struggling with mental health issues. And that had to have been the case with Phil, because what I learned after speaking with him, just from that first conversation, all his life he was struggling with mental health issues. And he was being bullied during those years by a lot of the neighborhood kids who were kind of coming together, forming gangs. During that period of time, he would come home and unfortunately find his mother bloodied, and which he later found out his father was beating her during the daytime. And so the mental stress that he was encountering, going home, seeing his mother being beat, and then going back to school after lunch, just to the realization that once school was over, 3 o'clock, he would have to meet back up with these bullies again. That created a mental strain on his life that you would not believe.
I tried to take my life 15 times. There was 15 suicide attempts. And I would come home from school and my mother would be beat up, bloody.
At the end of the day, as a young boy, your focus is girls. Let's be honest. Yeah, cars, planes, boats. But then when you get in school, it turns into girls. And even though he was trying to find himself even as at a young age, the girls were being attracted to him because of his talent. The guys in the neighborhood noticed that. And this continued the bullying. It actually exacerbated the stress that he was going through in his youth. Fast forward a little bit more into education. Because of the stress and anxiety that he was experiencing going through his school years, that caused him to have problems when it came to learning. And that kind of tied into the issues that he started having with learning, with reading, with even speech. He even had a speech impediment because of his lack of concentration, because his only focus was the drama that he had to experience right after school. So because of that, and there's another thing I want to mention, because this is the reason why it's important for us to understand the issues in our community, because there's something in the Board of Education that actually created or increased the mental health issues in the educational system, which is the fact that even though Phil Harris as a child wasn't learning, they kept pushing him through each class, each grade, all the way to the point where he got to the point of graduating, and actually graduated not knowing how to read, not knowing how to speak well, and they still pushed him through the system. And that's something that we definitely have to address. The systems that are set up in America that increases anxiety, that increases the mental health issues in each of our individual young people. From what I understand from the research that I've done, 1 in 5 young people in America have actually admitted to having thoughts of suicide and have admitted to hurting themselves, slashing and, things to, I guess, mentally deal with the anguish that they have to deal with regular bullying, with cyberbullying. 1 in 5, that's 20% of our youth. And that's young people just admitting to that fact. Can you imagine, the countless amount of young people that actually do not admit? And so, these are statistics that we need to hold close to our heart, because this is what I talk about when I say it's about beginning the conversation about mental health issues. Because the truth of the matter is, also 1 in 5 Americans throughout their lifetime will have some form of mental health issue. And that's a staggering statistic that we all have to deal with. Why do we have to deal with it? Because it affects every single one of us. Guess what? We all live in these communities, whether in an affluent neighborhood, whether an underserved neighborhood, or a neighborhood that may be thriving. The truth is, we all still have to take the train. We all still have to drive on the highway. And guess who's around us? 1 in 5, that's 20%. That means you, 2, 3, 4, that number 5th person. Yeah, mental health issues. So it's very steeped in our society. America has over 44 million people who are struggling with mental health issues. And just to get back to Phil Harris, because for me, Phil Harris made it real to me, because before I never really connected with this concept of mental health. I mean, you see it in your neighborhood, you see it in your friends, you definitely see it on television, but when you get connected to a person who has been dealing with mental health all their life. Now, I kind of want to go through it, because just a quick journey. He went from being young, single-digit ages, to being very different. He knew he was different, but the kids in his neighborhood knew that he was different.
this bad.